Hello everyone and welcome to another FLX Pride 2021 craft night. My name is Cameron. I use she, her pronouns, and in this video I'm going to be showing you all how to make a tie-dye cheesecake. The recipe I'm using is from sallysbakingaddiction.com and we'll provide the link in the description down below. This is a really fun technique that I'm using to make the tie-dye pattern, and it can be translated to a whole bunch of things. I've made cakes and cupcakes using this, and I think you could also use it to make like waffles or pancakes or things like that. So this is a really versatile technique and just a fun craft night
for Pride.
For Pride. Mitch is right here. He's joining me.
Hello! Who doesn't love rainbow food, right? And so this is an awesome technique. We've done it with pancakes before.
Yeah.
And even bread you can do, like especially like a quick bread.
True, yeah. If you wanted to make like a vanilla bean loaf or like a pound cake or something, you could dye.
Yeah, and if you have like issues with food coloring, because some people do and that's okay, like you can also incorporate, especially if you're doing something sweet like this, like different fruits to create your different colors.
True, they make like different food-based powdered dyes, and those would work perfectly for this because they wouldn't throw off the texture too much.
Yeah, so lots of fun ways to do it.
Yeah. So I hope you have fun and stick around, and if you make your own tie-dye cheesecake or tie-dye anything, just post it online or on the FLX Pride Facebook page, or tag it on Instagram, because we'd love to see what you do.
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's get to making some cheesecake.
Happy Pride!
Happy Pride! So the first thing we're going to start out with is the graham cracker crust. And to do this, you need 5 tablespoons of melted butter, which I have here, and then 1.5 to 2 cups of graham cracker crumbs. I have already made crumbs. You can buy crumbs that are already made, or you can just get like a Ziploc bag and some graham crackers or whatever you want. I also have used like crunchy chocolate chip cookies, or you can use Oreos or biscuits or any like English style biscuits, anything you want. And you just crush those up with a rolling pin. And then that was 1/4 cup of sugar. So now we just mix these all together. So once you have that all mixed, you can prep your pan. I am actually going to show you 2 different ways how to do it. The more traditional method is using a springform pan. It's a pan that comes out into 2 pieces. And that's just to help you get the cheesecake out a little bit easier. But it's totally not necessary. If you do want to go out and buy one, I think I got this for like $15 at Target. But if you already have regular standard cake pans at home, you can use these too. So for the springform pan, easy peasy, all you're gonna do is get a piece of parchment paper that is the size, the width or the length of the circle. Of the pan, and then you pop off your ring, set the paper on top of the bottom part, stick that down on there, and then close up your ring, and that's all good. You can cut this off if you want, it really doesn't matter. And then I like to give it just a quick spritz with pan spray, just in case. And then there's your springform pan sorted. Springform pan, and you're using a cake pan. This is a 6-inch cake pan. The springform pan is about 9-10 inches. I am using a smaller one just to give you an example, it would be the same thing at the larger scale. So for that, what you're going to do is you're still going to use parchment paper, and that's just going to make your life a whole heck of a lot easier when you're trying to get the cake out at the very end. So you flip the pan upside down, and then you start folding your parchment paper down the middle in half. I have a rectangle, and I'm using just a square that's about the same diameter as the pan. So you fold that in half, and then in half again. And then you want to fold it just a couple more times, keeping this point at the end. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your pan and sort of estimate where the middle is. And then from there, you're going to take your scissors and cut where the edge of the pan is. And then you'll get a pretty darn close circle. An oval in my case. This kind of turned out like an oval. But then you just want to sort of match it up against the pan, go back in, trim it a little. It's okay if it's a little smaller than the circle. You just don't want it bigger than the bottom of your pan, because this is just going to help us get the cake out easier so it won't stick to the bottom. So that is looking good. So now, again, pan spray. Just give it a quick little spritzer-oo. And then put your circle of parchment paper right in the middle, and then you can give that just a spritz as well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make the crust for the cheesecake in the pan. So you take this lovely mixture that we mixed up previously, pour that into your pan and sort of spread it out a little. And then you're gonna take just some sort of handy little instrument. I have a little measuring cup. This is a 3rd cup measuring cup. I've also used like the lid to the pan spray before. You can just use like a spoon, but it gets a little difficult. Just something with a nice sort of flat edge. And you're going to use that to pack the crust down into the pan. Because you want to make a nice solid base for the cheesecake filling. Sometimes you can get in there with your hand and just sort of move it around the way you need it to go. So you can have one nice thick bottom layer of crust, or you can do what I'm doing and sort of have it come up a little bit on the sides. It just sort of depends on how you like your crust. It'll all bake the same. But where the cup or the pan spray lid comes in really handy is just sort of getting that nice crisp edge right along the outside of the pan. And really just packing it right down in. So once your cheesecake crust is all nice and packed in, we're gonna put it in an oven that we preheated to 350 degrees for about 8 minutes so that can set. We're moving on to the filling. And in this bowl, I have 4 bricks of full fat cream cheese that have been sitting out for about an hour to get up to room temperature. It's really not that hard in June to have that happen. But about half an hour to an hour, you just don't want it to be fridge cold. So then what we're going to do is we're going to beat this with 1 cup of just regular granulated sugar. The crusts were done baking, so now you just pull them out and let them cool. They're just partially baked to give them a little bit more stability for when we put in the filling. So with the filling, I am using my electric beaters to mix it up. You can use this, you can use a stand mixer if you have one, or if you don't have either of these. This did only cost $10 at Walmart, but if you don't have the money to spare, aren't going to bake a lot, you can do this with just good old arm power. It'll just take a little bit, and you definitely want to make sure that the cream cheese is at fully room temperature, or else you'll have a very lumpy mixture. So I am just going to beat together the cream cheese and the sugar. The vanilla and the sour cream in there. We're going to go back with our beaters and just mix this all till it's combined. So you do want to pay a little bit of attention as you're mixing to not incorporate too much air into the mixture. You want to sort of keep the beaters in there, or like if you're doing it by hand, you don't want to really do like a big whipping motion. You just want to combine everything, because air in your cheesecake batter is what causes cracks. As it's in the oven, the air is expanding from the heat and it doesn't really have anywhere to go, so it just escapes upward, and then it sort of inflates the cheesecake, and then as it's cooling down and it settles, then all of the places where the air has sort of escaped, that is where it starts to crack open, and that's what gives you the crack on your cheesecake top. So it'll taste the same whether it's cracked or not, but if you just want to have that nice pretty top, try not to get too much air into your cheesecake batter. And to that end, creating any excess air into our cheesecake batter, what I'm going to do is I have 3 room temperature eggs in this bowl, and I'm just going to sort of mix them up with my spoon, get them a little bit worked over already, not adding too much air, because eggs tend to sort of mix up the eggs a little bit, so they don't have as far to go as I'm adding them into the cheesecake mixture. The eggs are just what holds everything together. So I'm gonna very slowly sort of make a well in the middle. That's just for me. And I'm gonna pour in approximately 1 egg at a time and sort of get that in there a little bit before adding the next addition. And we're just gonna add the eggs in and mix them till they're just combined. And I'm actually gonna come in and do the last little bit by hand, just to really make sure that there's not a bunch of air whipped into the cheesecake batter. Much off the beaters as I can and have that sitting over a bowl. Now I'm just going to go in with my spatula, scrape down the sides, get right down in there on the bottom, and just sort of fold it through a couple times just to make sure that everything is nice and homogeneous, but also making sure to not really add too much air. So it's at this moment in time where if you were making just your traditional cheesecake, you would take this, pour it right into your slightly cooled crust, and then put it in the oven and bake it. But we are doing something special for Pride Month, and we're making tie-dye cheesecake. So for that, I'm gonna need 6 other bowls. I'm doing a rainbow. Because of the nature of the rainbow, we're getting a lot of bowls messy. But I'm trying to reuse as many bowls as I can, just so I don't make too much work for myself to do later. So I'm reusing most of the other bowls that I have mixed things in thus far. And then I'm just going to take the little measuring cup that I used to mush down my crusts and use that to sort of dole out some batter. Bunch of bowls. So I'm going to take my food colors. You can use the McCormick gels, you can use these, you can use powders, whatever you've got on hand. So I'm gonna do a pink and a purple and a red and a little bit of blue into the purple, and then do blue in the blue bowl. And we'll also need a tiny bit of that for the green. And we're gonna do yellow in the green bowl. I'm gonna have to go find my other yellow. Let me just get to mixing. I'm gonna actually start with my yellow. And again, as you're mixing the colors in, you just want to take a little bit of care to not over beat them, whip them. You're just sort of very gently stirring the color in. So we've got yellow, then we move on to orange, then we move into red, gonna add more pink just because the blue is incredibly potent. I always forget that until it's too late. From the purple, move into the blue. Blue to green. I'm going to switch back to my spoon to do the pink. But you could just wipe off your spatula. You don't even really need to do pink. I just like pink, so I wanted to add it. And also it matches the shirt. Whatever you want to do. You don't have to do a rainbow. You can also do the colors of your personal pride flag or just your favorite colors. Or you could do any number of different colors. That is the fun of this, is you get to be a little bit creative. Filling our crusts and getting the cheesecakes into the oven, we're going to talk a little bit about a water bath. So if you have a roasting pan, you can do just your traditional water bath where you wrap your springform in foil if you're using a springform, or with a traditional cake pan you don't have to worry about water leaching in, and you just submerge it about halfway up the pan with hot water and then let that bake, and it just creates a little bit more gentle of a cooking experience. We're gonna fudge that a little bit because I don't know where our roasting pan is, and I'm also doing 2 separate pans. So if you don't have a roasting pan or don't feel like fussing with a full water bath, this is a really simple way to get around that. You just take a 9x13 pan, anything like this, that can hold a decent amount of water and not have it spilling over where it could be dangerous. Fill that up with about an inch or so of water, and then put that in your oven at least 5 minutes before you're going to put the cheesecakes in, so it has a chance to warm up. It may also be easier to put the pan in the oven first and then pour water into it. Whatever works for you. So now we're going to get to putting all these beautiful colors into our beautiful crust. So I'm going to go right back to my 3rd cup measuring cup that has been my trusty companion this entire time. And literally, I'm just going to blob colors in where I want them to go. There doesn't have to be a rhyme or a reason. Colors can get sort of muddled if you want them to. Just do whatever you want to do. You want to make sure you have a nice rubber spatula so you don't miss any little bit of your cheesecake batter that might be left in a pan or a bowl. You want to make sure that you have a really nice rubber spatula so you can scrape out every last little bit of cheesecake batter from these bowls. You don't want to let any of that go. Also, this full recipe can fit in one traditional, I believe this might be 10 inches, but it might only be 9. I honestly can't remember and it doesn't say. But it can fit in just this one vessel. I just wanted to show you all how to do it in a cake pan, which is why I made the smaller cake pan as well. I just didn't want to have 2 full-size cheesecakes because I just didn't want to do that work. But I'm sure Mitch is very sad to hear that. So we have our last little bowl here. Just do some fun little pops. Well, you can leave it as is with just the different plops of color everywhere. Or if you want to be super over the top and really get into that tie-dye mood, you can take a skewer or a butter knife or some sort of little stick like this and then just go in there and give it a couple swirls. Make sure that you don't go all the way to the bottom and sort of scrape around your crust, because you don't really want that mixing into the cheesecake custard. But just do a few little swirls to sort of get that real psychedelic tie-dye vibe going all throughout the cake. Give it a little jiggle and then tap. And you can see some bubbles rising to the surface. Especially as I am swirling it, some bubbles are coming up to the top. And so just doing one bang on the counter after you see a few of them helps to just pop them and get them out of here. So with this one, I am just going to leave it as is with the different swirls and just the plops. So now we're going to take these and stick them into our oven that is still heated at 350 degrees for 50 to 70 minutes. It is kind of a long cooking time. Cheesecake is a labor of love. It has a long cooking time, and then it has a long resting time before you can actually break into it and eat it. But it is well worth it. So I'm going to get these in the oven, and I will meet you back here in 50 to 70 minutes. All right, so it's been about 65 minutes, and the cheesecakes are done baking. So as you can see, some cracking happened, but that's just part of baking cheesecakes, honestly. There was a little extra over whipping. I probably could have done a little bit less with the electric beaters, but it's fine. It's still going to taste delicious, and that's what really matters. And if it really bothers you, you can always make you can take a jelly or make a little whipped topping or something and put that over the top, and no one has to know that there were cracks on top, and you can just slice into it and still get that really cool tie-dye effect on the inside, and no one has to see the top. But the next step for the cheesecakes is to turn off the oven and leave the oven door cracked. And then you're going to let the cheesecakes cool for about an hour. And just let the oven and the cheesecakes cool completely. Well, not completely, just for about an hour, as everything starts to cool down. This is especially important if you have them in the water bath itself, because when you take that out of the oven, you don't want the water to still be the 350 degrees that it is when the oven was on. So you let those cool for an hour, and then you take them out and let them cool on the counter until they are room temperature. And then you put them in the refrigerator and you let them sit either 4 hours at the least and up to overnight or whenever you want to serve them. So the next time you see these cheesecakes, they will have cooled completely and sat in the refrigerator to get down to refrigerator temperature, and I'll be showing you a nice little cross section. All right, so it is the next morning, and we have let our cheesecake cool overnight, and now I'm just going to show you how to get it out of the pan. I'm actually going to show you how you would get it out of the cake pan using the springform pan, and then I'll just sort of go over how you would do it with the springform pan. But both methods start with a nice sharp knife, and you just run that around the side of the cake.
I love watching this part. And you want the knife to be dry, right? Like running it under warm water is not a thing you would do?
Well, running it under warm water actually would help, because it would help melt it a little bit to make it easier to separate from the sides, but you would want to wipe it off with a paper towel.
True.
Knock that off. And the knife just around it one more time to fully make sure that you've gotten everywhere, because it should sort of come cleanly all around the edge. So doing this one last time really lets you know that it's all good. And then with this, Christmas. All right. So then with the cake pan, what you want to do is you take a plate and then you invert the cheesecake and just sort of give it a few taps and wiggles and jiggles. And if you have done the, so you lift it up using the parchment, and then you can just peel the parchment off, and there's your cheesecake.
Beautiful.
It got a little burnt, but
there's a whole type of cheesecake that gets burned on purpose, right?
this is true.
Isn't
It's
that
called
a thing?
Basque.
Yeah, so that last time I made a cheesecake, it was very Basque. So this looks great. And it's not for dogs.
So we are going to do the warm water trick just to warm up the knife a little bit. And then you can make your coat. Wipe the knife off between cuts.
And that helps keep the colors nice, right?
Yes.
Ooh.
Already on the knife, you can see those fun colors. And here is the inside of our tie-dye cheesecake.
That is so pretty. It matches your shirt.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to go with the pink as well as some red to really get in all the colors of the FLX Pride 2021 shirt.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining us for this tie-dye cheesecake craft night for FLX Pride 2021. I hope you go off and make your own cheesecakes or cakes or cupcakes or pancakes or quick breads or anything. And then just remember to tag us FLX Pride and let us know what you make. Enjoy and happy Pride!
Happy Pride!